All right. Hello, everybody. I'm here with my friend David Love. This is John Danius, and we're here to talk about a topic that both David and I are very, very fascinated about. And it's the overlap between mindfulness and freestyle rap. I'll repeat that: mindfulness and freestyle rap. Now, this is something that we're both very, very fascinated about that comes from a place of personal development. We are both very, very interested in personal development. And we're also very interested in personal development and having fun at the same time. Now, I'm going to stop talking and pass it on to David. David, why are we doing this? Over to you, sir.
I just saw your door open. I
Why are
think
we doing this and what are we doing?
why are we doing what we're doing? We are
Yeah.
doing this because, as you said, we found this amazing overlap between those two different art forms, um, and I think we're both excited to to share that with the world. To start that conversation because it's not something I've heard many people talk about. I'm not sure how many people are aware of it. From my perspective, coming from I guess the musical background of rapping, but also being interested in martial arts and meditation. I never fully broke it down and thought about it as mindfulness, but I actually was using elements of mindfulness to freestyle, to be present, to be in a moment, and I've noticed a lot of benefits from practicing freestyling in terms of just confidence and ability to communicate and think on the fly. For example, now I'm doing workshops, and I find because of years of performing, where I did a lot of sort of lyrical improv, it's given me that faith that even if I kind of stumble, like at one point last night, I couldn't remember something. My mind went completely blank. But I've been in that situation many times, and I think because of freestyling, because of knowing how to be present and be aware, it's taught me to be mindful. It's really interesting. It's like freestyling's taught me how to be mindful. Mindfulness teaches me to freestyle. They both kind of fit together. But I think the possibilities in terms of communication, in terms of confidence, in terms of anxiety, and lots of other things are massive. So yeah, I think that's why we're doing this. Why we're having this conversation and sharing some of the things we've learned.
Yeah. So we stumbled upon this about a month ago. From my side, I come from mindfulness and meditative background. So I do a lot of practices to help myself be more present, to be more tuned into my mental and emotional state, and also to be more articulate while talking. And perhaps you might have even heard a few mumblings here, a few ums. I can promise you that a month ago I had a lot more, and it's through this infusing of freestyle rap exercises into my mindfulness practice that I'm improving my way of speaking. And we stumbled on this, but there is magic in this. There's real magic. And so we're spreading the word. We're opening this conversation. There'll be people that are, you know, people that rap, that do freestyle from that side. That we're asking, have you guys, anybody listening, have you thought about infusing meditative practice together? And if you have, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people like me that are starting from meditation, that like listening to rap, that's since the age of whatever 10 would have loved to double with freestyle and have not done so. And
Mm-hmm.
now together we are playing around and we're finding these beautiful exercises, breaking it down, disseminating it. And so I find myself in my own personal practice, I will do these 2 minute, 3 minute exercises, and I'm learning to be more mindful whilst in conversation. And
Mm.
if the two of us have found a few gems here and there, how many hidden gems are out in this world? So we're starting a conversation. We'd like, people, we'd like this to spread. If you're listening and you're interested, send a message. If you're listening and you're not interested, pass it to somebody else, find somebody else who's interested and spread this world. Let's, start this conversation. Because there's a lot of potential as well, where we see this going, we've only scratched the surface. So for example, if you look at schools, children that are learning, learn to be mindful. How are they doing it? Are they doing it in an interesting way?
Yeah.
Are they doing it in an engaging way? Personally, myself, by me infusing these practices, which we will talk about in other episodes, there are some beautiful practices, and they're fun and they're engaging. So how far can this go? How far can freestyle rappers improve their freestyle through mindfulness? And how far can mindfulness practitioners improve their active mindfulness practice, their mindful experience whilst in conversation, through this fusing?
I mean, I'm getting so excited listening to you speak because it's reminding me of so many things. For me personally, coming from the musical side, I was front man of a band for about 6 or 7 years, and before that, I was freestyling. It was like military training. I'd hang out with some friends and we'd freestyle for like 4 or 5 hours every night, and this was for a few years. And so I built a really strong foundation of being able to just, perform in the moment, and it taught me listening skills, because you have to really be present and in the moment, and listen to the music, and okay, how is the beat changing, how do I respond to that? Or if you're freestyling with other people, it taught me to feed off of what that person's saying. So maybe I come in off of the last person's last line. One thing I used to do with my friends is we'd tell a story. 3 of us would sit around the table and there'd be about 2 lines each, and so he'd start a story about just anything, and then it would come around to you, and you never knew what it was going to be, so you had to be in the moment. You couldn't have something pre-prepared. And so it teaches you listening, it teaches you presence of mind, concentration, so many things which are useful in our day-to-day. You could be in a conversation with someone and feel anxious, which I have some anxiety at times, but that presence of mind to just really be in the moment and focused on what they're saying, or for example, to have an awareness of your breath, which is a mindfulness practice, can put you in the present, because anxiety ultimately comes from thinking about what could happen potentially in the future. So I think the potential, as you say, is really huge, whether it's to deal with anxiety, whether it's communication, confidence, from the creative side and self-expression side. A number of the people that I've freestyled with, and because a lot of our friends, we just do it recreationally. We'll be hanging out and we'll have some music on and we just start freestyling for fun. And I noticed that with some of them, they really came out of their shell more. They started to find their character more, because in that moment, it's quite hard to manufacture something which is very egotistical. You can do it to a degree, but people can hear it. It doesn't ring true if it's not from the truer part of you. And so I find a lot of times with freestyle, it kind of unmasks us, and it frees us up in a way and allows our voice to actually come through and for us to really speak and say what we're thinking and feeling. You can put on a mask, as I say, but it shows. It's similar to watching a politician and thinking, yeah, something about this is off. Like, you can feel when someone's more authentic. So I think, yeah, in terms of self-expression, in terms of so many different things, it's a very powerful vehicle.
Yeah, and it carries on beyond that period of practice. And what I mean by that is that any experience that we have, say we've had a joyful experience or a sad experience, a present experience, a confused experience, when that stops and we move on to our next activity, there's a tail. So if I'm able to be present, to cultivate a flow state, with 10 minutes of freestyle, then I stop and then I move on to something else. For example, it could be a Zoom meeting, a work meeting. Then my sense of presence and being more articulate will tail, and will carry through. And then the magic of mindfulness is that not only that it makes me be more present and more in the flow state while freestyling, but also it will enable that tail period to be far more prolonged. So I will carry through this presence. Will not just carry it through for 10 minutes, but I could carry through for 1 hour, for 2 hours. I could carry it through to my next work meeting. I could carry it through to the next interaction that I'm going to have with my wife and my son. I'm carrying it through into life.
And something I'd like to just add on to what you just said, actually, excellent point. It's not like you just have isolated experiences. They definitely sort of bleed into one another, don't they? I think one of the key things to focus on is this is about the flow state. And we can experience flow in so many different ways. You wouldn't necessarily have to be rapping. You could experience flow in the course of a conversation. You could experience flow doing something physical. But I think one of the great things about this is it's training you to be present, to be aware of what's happening within you and in your environment, to be aware of your physical sensations, to have that sensory sort of sharpness, and to have flow and to experience flow. And I think that's when we're at our best, when we're in that sort of peak performance state of flow. And I think that's something we can cultivate more and more. I find now sometimes I might be doing something physical, but by having an awareness of what I'm doing, tuning into the visual element of it, or maybe the rhythm of it, or my breath, I can experience these states of flow and can be in a state which is quite blissful and peaceful at times. Just doing something really mundane and regular. Uh, and I think that is the future. I think the future is people being able to access those states much more at will, whether they're at work or they're in a business meeting or socially. I think that will be the future. It will be, how do we access that as we realize more and more that that's where we perform at our best.
Yeah, I agree with you. So much potential, so much potential. And yes, I agree with you as well. And from my own experience, I'm sure a lot of people have this experience of tapping into flow states through different practices. For example, I tap into flow state regularly if I'm going surfing, boxing, cash flow modeling in Excel. When I get into the zone, actually, we can tap into this, through art, through a variety of things, free diving, and there's merit in all of these. Sure. And particularly though, for me, what I love about accessing it through freestyle, though, is that I'm accessing it whilst in conversation, because it's certainly very valuable for me to tap into the flow state while I'm free diving, inside the ocean. But then it can be easy for me to start associating the flow state with a separate world, a separate reality.
Yes.
So the more I can bring in that flow state, something that I have association with my day-to-day life, in particularly for me, who I tend to have some anxiety when I'm speaking to people. So cultivate. So it's almost as if the association between, freestyle and normal day-to-day life is far now I'm losing my words, but what I mean, I'm able to blend them far more easily than, say, I am accessing flow state whilst, let's say, boxing, and then bringing it into a conversation.
Yeah, I agree. That makes perfect sense, actually, because it's not such a big leap, is it, from free diving to having a conversation compared to freestyling? Because with freestyling, you are speaking. You are. Yeah.
Great. So let's round it off. Just to conclude, then, summarize, mindfulness and freestyle rap, there is a huge overlap, benefits from both sides, and we're starting this conversation. There are loads of interesting exercises, which we will record some other videos, like, for example, David, who comes from, who's experienced in freestyle. we will post a video of David freestyling, and then doing a little mindfulness practice and freestyling again, noticing if there's a difference. Also, we will post some videos from my side, as a beginner, how do I disseminate freestyle, into little parts, and what exercise can I do that is fun for a few minutes. And there's a whole bunch of them, so we'll disseminate those. So in conclusion, this is an amazing topic, starting the conversation. Let's see where it goes.
Yes, indeed, it begins.
It begins. Fantastic.